Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's weekend frivolity. This is where we put this broadcast out on the Twitter, on the net for free on YouTube and stuff. So welcome all YouTubers and public audience. Big welcome, of course, to level oneers. We're doing this a little bit later today because Grim just did a marathon session with the level oneers. This week's module is all about risk management. Oh boy, what a headache. And I'd actually be curious because we got a whole bunch of Da Vinci aficionados in the group. Do you now understand what little old lady means? I sure. Oh, good. All right. Well, we're getting some positive. We got one positive affirmation. It's really important for us to figure out what type of risk taker we are. And to build our trading plans about what type of risk takers we want to be ultimately. So, as I said just a moment ago, they just went through a 3-hour marathon, and I love just sitting and listening. In fact, I was just working away on the cell phone, doing all the Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And just listening to Twim, listening to Grim talk. He's such a good speaker. And I think all you guys are in good hands. It didn't feel like 3 hours. Did it just fly by? And that's, when you listen to somebody who knows what they're talking about and, it's good trading information, it gives you lots of examples and lots of working models. The time just flies by so quickly. So, yeah, it was great stuff. Great stuff. And actually, our little old lady du jour, mind you, she wouldn't call herself that. But anyway, Colleen has made it here into the call today. So I'd be curious to see whether she now understands the different risk takers. And we were actually talking about Joe Sixpacks and stuff. I mean, hell, we can all be Joe Sixpacks. It's just a question of, do you really want to have the headache of forcing yourself to exit a position if a setup fails? But anyway, interesting. We're already starting to get some questions on the YouTube page, so that's kind of cool. Dennis says, could you talk about the effect of the trade war on Chinese companies in the future? I hate to say it, Dennis, but I think they're being affected in the present. A lot of the data coming out of China these days is pretty grim. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm also sort of reading on the wires and stuff that the Chinese are, a bit almost desperate to end all this trade war talk. And frankly speaking, it would be awfully nice for us to move beyond this. The irony of it all is that, guys like Dennis Gartman, I don't know whether you're familiar with Dennis Gartman, but I used to read his newsletter religiously for about 10, 15 years, way before he ever sort of hit the CNBC stage. A little sad how his perception by the public has changed since he did the CNBC episodes. But I used to read his letter all the time, and he used to always talk about it, and he nailed the gold rally. He was super bullish of Barrick. Heading out of the 1990s into the early 2000s when nobody would touch the sort of industrial sort of commodity stocks. And clearly that was the place to be, and he did very, very well off of it. But he used to always say he expected that this cycle would sort of be China's cycle, fear cycle, all that. China would dictate the terms, but the end of this cycle should probably see the opening up of China. And ironically enough, what we've literally seen is 15, 20 years of capital flowing into China, massive trade surpluses, all that kind of talk. And his argument was, as soon as they do open it up, you may actually see a good 10, 20 years of capital outflow of China. And if anybody owns any real estate here in Vancouver, you know what that feels like. Holy geez. They just keep coming and coming and coming. So, I mean, the point of the matter here is, we may actually see a situation where capital actually reverses direction and heads the other direction for the next 10, 20 years. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And I suppose we could argue that, crypto enthusiasts have seen that, Bitcoin itself and, all the various different cryptocurrencies have been used quite a bit by sort of the tech savvy part of the Chinese population to get capital out of the country. So I don't know. I mean, I guess the way I would look at it, just to answer your question, David, or Dennis, excuse me, is um, trade wars never end well. I think that the United States is actually structurally in a very powerful position right now because they've made the transition from the baby boomers into the millennials. The damage to currency dilution has been done. That's now an old story. That's not a new story. All the overhanging debt that could have collapsed the U.S. economy has been transferred to the bankers' balance sheets. And kind of like FDR with the Tennessee Valley Authority through the Great Depression and following that. Ironically enough, that the Tennessee Valley Authority investment and buying up all the bad mortgages through the Great Depression turned out to be one of the best investments that the United States of America, the government of the United States of America, ever made. They made a huge killing on that. And ironically enough, it's actually interesting because Mr. Trump himself has been saying all along here, well, the way that we deal with our debt situation is we just grow. And I think that there has to be a reset button hit. We, every 10 years, usually we get a nice juicy recession. My hunch is that these trade wars all translate into like a global recession. And ironically enough, the country that actually should benefit the most out of all of this and come out the other side the strongest actually is going to be the United States. And the irony of it all is that I teach in my level 1 programs, although I don't think that the students even really appreciate it, but we just went through a major pivot on the US dollar. And I'm actually expecting 17 and a half years of US dollar bull ahead of us. Of course, it never moves in a straight line. And if there's any question of American growth down the road, then obviously a currency will get whacked. But on balance, and it's interesting. I have a site member who lives in Hawaii, and we're thinking about starting up a little business venture to try and buy Hawaiian real estate. Because I would absolutely love, I think me personally, for whatever it's worth, I love the idea of owning a nice little piece of paradise. But I love the idea of investing in U.S. denominated hard assets, things like real estate in very depressed markets, and nobody's interested in Hawaii right now. To try and take advantage of that 17 and a half year bull that I'm expecting. But that's a long, long, long time away. It's kind of like us thinking about the end of this past fear cycle and the way that Bitcoin just exploded on the scene and cryptocurrencies exploded on the scene. Us having this same conversation about the potential of the crypto top and the commodities top and, just absolute lack of confidence in the system, having that conversation around 2000, right around the dot-com boom. And I don't even know if there's even many people who watch this video that were even, active in the market back then. But kind of like what I started off the conversation with Mr. Gartman, the smart money then in the dot-com boom was getting out of growth assets and into hard assets. The smart money now, I think, is getting into growth assets and leaving hard assets. And of course, for the crypto community, this is the big question: does crypto translate into a growth asset going forward? Does it stay a store of value story? And if it does, and it can't morph, then I think that the bull market of crypto is basically done. But my hunch is, and you look at things like Ethereum and stuff like that. My hunch is that crypto wants to be used as a growth proxy. And I see a whole bunch of stories every day of different areas of the market. In fact, actually, we'll talk about it in a bit. I tweeted out a coin that was all about, I think they're in the real estate industry, if I'm not mistaken. And I bought names recently. Hell, I bought a stock that is using the blockchain to prove the provenance on artwork, which and valuables, which I think is brilliant application of crypto. So lots of fun going forward. But to answer your question, simply put, Dennis, I think the effects are being felt. And I think that China is suffering. It's interesting. I talked to some of my, OGs and old site members and even current site members from Australia. And the first time in a very, very long time, they're actually worried about things like real estate prices in Australia because the neighboring superpower that uses Australia as a supermarket and a playground, they're kind of feeling the pinch right now. So I don't know whether that helps answer your question, but that's sort of what I'm thinking right now. I see actually there's quite a few people there on the YouTube page, so that's kind of cool. Hi, everybody. Hello, Ronald. OMG looks really good here. Holy shit. Yeah, we should look at that. I mean, there's so many of these little coins that are just like absolutely perfect. And actually, I kind of told the level oneers that I thought, this is absolutely the best time for you to come into the market. If you guys had come into crypto this time last year, it was like the worst possible time to get started in the market. And if anything, it was really good that a lot of our people that did start at TRI, last year, we got them just to slow down and, just, maybe just let this whole damn thing just calm down a little bit here before we start going and throwing shitloads of money at the market. And I think that that was well served. I mean, the irony of it for crypto is that, over the past year, I've been sitting on a massive cash position and I just can't justify going in and starting to throw my money back at crypto yet. What money I do still have in crypto, I'll move it around between BTC and the altcoins and stuff. But I just don't feel like we're at, the pivot. If anything, you know what? And maybe we'll talk about this later. But we're at what I would consider chop Vegas right now in the market. So anyway, as I've said repeatedly, I like to use this session sort of twofold. Now, Grim just did a 3-hour marathon with the level oneers. And I got a funny feeling that he basically answered every question. But if you have any other further questions, I see Crypto Odyssey, you're in here. I see Colleen, you're in here. You guys are just absolutely stalwarts, which is great because that shows me that you're going to leave this program really getting good value for your money spent. You're definitely investing the time and effort here, and it shows. Own Pollution, same thing for you. Max, I think you're in the level 1 program, aren't you? So the point is that, a big reason why I'm doing this broiler chickens religiously week after week is I do want to give you guys the opportunity. If you're just like, I just didn't get that, Brian, could you please understand that? Or could you please explain that just a little bit more? I'm more than happy to do that. So if you have a question, bug me. I am too, Julian G. Right on, dude. And really, you were just in Vegas for 3 days, but you missed us. Oh, that was sweet. Were you thinking about us while you were rolling them bones? I always love saying that. Sorry. Anyway, and it used to be like in years gone by, you could get like dinner for like $5 there, but I don't know whether they do that anymore. Anyway, okay, and hello, Andre. Nice to see you. And Van Nigian, Double arc today. Woo, yeah, man. We have lots of people banging out doubles on the site. In fact, I even put a tweet out yesterday. It was so funny when that VTC took off and started. And one guy on the site, and he's in the call right now, he was like, "Oh, Jesus, they left me behind again. They missed my double just by like 10 sats, the bastards." And I was really worried about him because he's relatively new to trading, and I was just like, well, just be patient, just be patient. And sure enough, VTC went and blasted through the highs again, and I think he got his fills. You got a pile of fills, didn't you? But anyway, it was really great to see going in the lounge yesterday to see a whole bunch of happy campers, and that always puts a smile on your face, right? So great to see people rocking it. So long story short, Colleen, Max, Own Pollution, love that name. And any others, Crypto Odyssey, if there's any other level oneers that are in the call here. Andrew, are you on twice? I think I see you there twice. If you have any questions left over from the risk management, please ask. Right now's the time to just totally don't worry about it, dude. It's no big deal. Totally the time to take advantage of this window here for you. Brian, when you trade Creoti, do you usually have tons of open positions? Also, do you do little old lady in the market that easily does 5 to 10x? Okay. Let's see if I can understand the question. So, do I have tons of positions, open positions? Alex, to be perfectly honest, I started this little demonstration portfolio in late 2014. We put $500 in it just to demonstrate the little old lady risk management approach to buying shalt coins, right? Because we know that a lot of them are just pump and dumps. We know that a lot of them are, scams. And, how does just sort of a Joe Blow, I don't know anything about the market, how do you participate in such a crazy, basically gambling kind of environment? So we threw like $500 into a Trix account, and basically we just bought positions that were less than 5% of that $500. And every time the position would double, out would go half of whatever was left in the account. Technically, every position that I ever buy, I will be long it forever. Because of just prices come crashing back down here in 2017 or 2018, and now whatever the remaining positions were look almost comical, like they're worth 0.01 BTC now or something. But those are free positions that were established by selling halves on doubles, and like that VTC, for example. I think in the pumps of 2017, 2016, I think we probably got like about 10, 15 doubles off on those crazy coins. I mean, they just kept doubling over and over and over. And then if the coin comes back down to earth and you buy it back, second car kind of idea, then if it starts rallying again, then you have like multiple sell orders that start getting filled on doubles. So the irony of it all is that if I ever buy a shalt coin with that crypto portfolio, the one that we run on the site, I'm going to be long the coin forever. We started talking in class today. Grim talked about it. I mean, everybody's trading plan is different, but the whole reason why I put that plan together was just simply to demonstrate how you buy and sell halves on doubles and how you manage risk. So that, if your shalt coin does go belly up, your portfolio isn't wiped out. And so long and short of it here, and I don't know whether I can show you or not, but just on Trex, this is sort of our grown-up account. So I've got just a big old whack of cash ready to spend if I feel that we're ready to rock and roll in crypto again. I don't know whether we're really there or not. But hopefully you can see. I mean, I don't even know how many pages of coins we have here. 8 pages. So 7 pages of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20 times 7, that's 140 plus, so we got, like a good 150 coins just sitting on Trex alone. And then, of course, if Trex decides to be jerks and delist the coins, we've got garbage cans over on Polo, on Binance, on hell, I've even moved a couple coins over to OKCoin because that was the only place they were listed. Cryptopia, and actually I'm hearing that Cryptopia might actually even come back online. It's a miracle. I have no idea what the hell's going to happen there, but anyway, just another one of our garbage cans. So I easily have about 200 or 300 different cryptocurrencies, and lots of our garbage cans are pretty full too with names. And the point here is that I'm not here to actually make a fiat gain. The whole point of this demonstration portfolio, and it's kind of fun just to watch it evolve over time. And I've often said this, I bet if I just closed my eyes and woke up 5 years from now, that silly portfolio could be easily 10, 20, maybe even 100x what it is right now. And just on all these free positions that were established, totally realistic. And that, that's kind of like, think of Amazon. Amazon came out at like $3-4 a share, went zooming up to $100-200 a share. Then in the dot-com blow up, came all the way back down to like $5-10 a share. So basically did a full circle. And of course, now we all know it's like $1,000 some odd a share. So the point of the matter is, I don't know who's going to be the ultimate winner. I just want to own everything. And if an asset doubles, then out goes half, and we just throw that original capital back on the pile and we can go buy something else. So I hope that helps answer that question. Now, do I have other trading plans that trade, things like leverage and trade setups? Absolutely. I'm very active in the options market. I love trading options. I don't recommend it to the public, and I think it's extremely dangerous for new people to investing to even consider trading options. But I absolutely love them. But that's just another account, another trading plan. So I don't know if that helps answer your question or not, but I hope it does. Let's see. My trading buddy from old school 20K BTC, Andrew Milligan. Okay. Let's see. I'd like to kick around some more risk ratio. Say I have 25,000. How about spreading out for investing and trading with low capacity for risk? All right. Well, your simple rule, Colleen, if you're working with 25 G's, is I'm not going to throw more than what, $1,250 at any one idea. Simple as that. There is a general rule that we don't want to get too concentrated in any one particular asset class. And so, Colleen, do you remember, I believe in the very beginning of the level 1 class, we showed you this kind of thinking, where you're going to spread, if you're talking about, your financial plan and all that kind of stuff, you really should do this age equation. And unfortunately for us older people, keep in mind, I'm getting close to 50 now. That means that we're not allowed to actually take as much risk as the young kids. But, that's just the way life goes. But, within your sort of risk portfolio, you can build multiple plans that target different approaches to the market. And like if you're going, like, if you got 25 grand and you're like, okay, well, I can put like, 50% of my money at risk, whatever, then that knocks that down to 12,500. You could always think about things like, if you want your fixed income, you could think about index linked notes. You could think about things like convertible debentures, preferred shares. So there are ways to get a bigger bang for your buck out of fixed income assets. But nonetheless, if we're allowed to put, say, 10, 15 grand into risk assets, then you can always build multiple plans across different assets and then just sort of allocate certain amounts of capital to those plans. And if just hypothetically, if I was working with 25 grand, my hunch is probably the crypto plan, like altcoins, shaltcoins, that kind of thing, might be like maybe 5 grand or so. And so, the 5% rule, if you're a little old lady, you throw like $250 into a name. And then just rinse and repeat. Every time an asset doubles, out goes half, put the $250 back onto the pile. Does that make sense? Hello, Colleen. Okay, cool. And of course, this is not investment advice. I was a registered financial planner, blah, blah, blah. In years gone by, I am not a licensed financial planner now. All SEC, Canadian regulators. I'm not giving Colleen financial advice here. If anything, what I would prefer you do is take something like this to your licensed financial advisor and just say, okay, well, this is an idea a gentleman told me. How does this sort of fit with your sort of professional advice? Keep in mind, we have to be, ironically enough, just for the record, everybody should understand this. Technically, we are newsletter writers. That is our job classification. And of course, we teach courses about everything that we talk about in our newsletters. I don't really ever give anybody direct advice. Go buy that now, you'll get rich. What I say, and this is actually the reason why I built the little old lady risk model plan, and affectionately on the site we like to call it Nanny Nibbles plan, is I would rather just demonstrate with my own money and say, all right, this is what I'm doing with my money right now. If you'd like to join me, you're more than welcome, but I'm not pitching you to buy anything here. All right, that's all the legalese. So the lawyers are all happy now, okay, Colleen? We got to remember the lawyers. Okay, so there was a question. Hopefully, Colleen, I helped answer that question. And Own Pollution says, so how far ahead do you set sells in LOL? Well, yeah, it should really be the start. And it's kind of funny because that's a good question, Own, because we sites like Bitterex never used to have sort of order limits. And then all of a sudden we started teaching this idea where literally you should get your orders working like the moment that you get a buy fill order filled, get your sell order to sell half on a double working right away. And then all of a sudden, like we had one guy on the site. We used to call him his screen name was Innie. And we used to call him Innie Big because Innie was a very large player. And he used to literally like stack up like 10 sell orders all ahead of time. And then, of course, you get these crazy ass pumps. And all of a sudden, he's just like, hey, I got 10 doubles today. Woohoo! On one name because the coin went absolutely crazy. So, and then all of a sudden, mysteriously, we used to have another guy on the site, Jeremy, used to do the same thing. And there was a coin, cannabis coin, where they reorganized the coin and brought it back at a staggeringly higher level. And because Jeremy had like 10, 15 sell half on a double orders, all of them got filled up at the very top of the market. And it just printed the biggest red dildo you could possibly imagine, and where the price was literally right back where it started by the end of the day. So if you wanna laugh, pull up the candy chart, and you'll see that. I mean, it's just so funny. Let's see if I can show you. Man, there's some sexy little coins, and the volume is pouring in here. So sexy. Anyway, sure is nice to see this after a year of nothing. Let's see if I can show you. Here's another one. Look at this CVZ. Oh my goodness, so beautiful. Ay, ay, ay. And this is in US dollars too, which is even better. And I really think it's a good idea for the public. If you're thinking about putting your hard-earned money into the market, maybe just check it versus USD and see whether there's a bottom working versus USD. What was I talking about? I was talking about candy, right? I don't know whether we'll even see it on here. We might not. Yeah, that candle right there. You see that bloody candle? So, Own, can you see why it's in your best interest to have a whole bunch of sell half on double orders working? Where literally, if you didn't have any of these orders working, you wouldn't have gotten any fills because they literally opened it up right up here and bam, it came screaming right back down to the bottom. And he got fills the whole way down, because it opened up, ding, 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 ding. All the fills came in. And Jeremy was just laughing that day. And I miss Jeremy. I don't know what happened to him. I sure hope he's doing okay. But anyway, it's really, really good example of why you should try and have your open orders working. Isn't that funny? And that is crypto from the last cycle. I don't know whether we're going to see this anymore. What I notice is that a lot of pumps, they run into a lot of selling pressure, which sort of leads me to believe that the higher ups, ironically enough, you guys, everybody in the public wanted the institutions to come in. But ironically enough, what that's actually going to end up happening is that a lot of the volatility of this kind of stock disappears from the market. So anyway, what can you do? Own, does that kind of help answer your question? Yeah, now the problem, of course, like we said, is that Trex after this kind of event came along and said, number one, you can only have a certain amount of open orders working, which of course really pissed off all the OGs that had like a bazillion gazillion orders. And then add insult to injury, a little while later, they said after 30 days, we're killing all your open orders. So that sort of threw a big bucket of water on it. And we've all had to go through the process of building scripts and stuff to re-enter open orders and stuff and fighting with the APIs and all that stuff. And now, if I understand correctly, and actually, Andrew, your team, if I'm not mistaken, is working diligently on this, but we're actually going to try and have a program on the site to try and help with sites like 3 commas and get your own algorithms and bots working. But please understand that going down that road, you have to be very proactive. You have to obviously understand computer programming, and a lot of that sort of educational material that we're going to offer through Andrew's group is all about teaching you how to actually write these, connect a signaling system to an exchange or even like an intermediary like 3 commas, to have all those open orders, all sort of working automatically. And then, of course, Andrew's group has got some really cool bots that they're actually trading in the market, and they'll teach you how to implement those as well. So, but that's a very advanced conversation. I would say most of the people, look at that, Andrew. We've already got people ready to take your program. Look at this, right? So they're already coming in here. We already got sales already lined up for you. So they've been working away diligently. In fact, actually, one of the prerequisites for them to actually offer this offering on the site was that they all have got to have done very well in the level 1 program. So actually, half of their battle is just getting some of their programmers up to the point where they understand what a trading plan is. They understand what setups are. They understand what systemic versus unsystemic risk. They understand what efficient frontier is. Blah 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 blah. Because I think if anything, for all new people to investing, it's far better off to start from a position of strength, understand the basic mechanics of how trading works, and then move on to trading algorithms, or else you can actually get yourself into a lot of hot water really quickly by not understanding appropriate risk management strategies, not understanding how to work with a trading plan, not understanding the emotional roller coaster of trading and the importance of journaling and logging and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, that sure was a lot of hot air. Okay, so did I answer all the questions here? Yeah, well, if you're, and actually, ironically enough, Owen, and this sort of pisses all the Harvard people and Princeton people off to no end. But ironically enough, a lot of the Wall Street guys, and Wacker Street in Chicago and stuff, they actually look to the professional poker players in Vegas for a lot of their risk management strategies, and a lot of sort of behavioral management. They actually look to the people who gamble professionally for a living, versus any sort of ivory tower guy who's going to just bark at you about theory. And in actual fact, in the library, I don't know whether I'm allowed to show this, but I'm going to anyway. I like to sort of just put like YouTube channels and stuff. And this bankroll management video with this Chris Ferguson, we had lost it, but actually somebody in the level 1 course went and found it. And it's, I guess, by a Russian person or something. They just redid it. So I don't know how long this video is going to last, but I would recommend anybody on the site go watch this video before it disappears, because it's a really, really good analogy. And Owen, do you hopefully you see the similarities with how we talk, and how this guy talks. A lot of similarities. I know some people don't like him, but nonetheless, the point is, you're absolutely right, Owen. I mean, literally, it's almost exactly the same thing. Got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right? Yo-Yo says, Brian, which exchanges do you recommend, and do you keep the cryptos on the exchange? Well, the problem is I got accounts everywhere. We also have some, well, actually, I don't know whether it's in cold storage, but I know we have, it must be. I know we have BTC and Ethereum and Litecoin and stuff off exchanges as well. So ironically enough, I actually think the best way to sort of diversify is to have just a whole bunch of these different exchanges. Which ones would I recommend? Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, what I find ends up happening in this crypto space is it's kind of like there's a flavor of the month. And unfortunately, guys, I hate to say this, and you're not going to like when I say this, but this is an unregulated market. You can't trust any of these people. You just got to understand you're coming to the game to play the game. And if the part of the game is just simply you have to accept the fact that one of these exchanges might go belly up right in front of your face, well, that's part of the cost of admission. Do you want to do something like go to sort of the own your own keys? I think that's perfectly fine. I think it's a great idea. Nothing wrong with that. And in actual fact, one of our alumni, and actually he referred a whole bunch of his people to us, so thank you very much, Da Vinci, for that, is trying to build a piece of software so that you can keep your coins off exchanges and yet still be able to trade them if you see your coins moving. So good luck, Dav. I hope that project's going well for you. I get the impression that he's moving forward. He sure is hobnobbing with a lot of the higher ups in this space and around the world. So it's great to see Dav's enjoying his success. And he might just build a product that makes all this exchange risk, a story from the previous cycle. Fingers crossed. I hope so. I'll buy his software when it comes out. Mind you, they always say with software, you shouldn't buy the 1.0 version, though, right? Maybe we'll wait for the 2.0 version. Yeah, well, in Canada, oh yeah, yeah, what a terrible situation here, right? And actually, you know, the sad thing is we, Bernard, we have, sorry, Burnett, we have people on the site that have been punished by Quadriga, so you're not alone. Um, I happen to have had an account there, but I didn't have any capital on the account, so I'm feeling kind of fortunate there. And this is a bit tragic because I've even heard people say, look at, I wasn't even in crypto. I just put some money on the exchange because I was thinking about buying crypto and I lost all my money, which totally isn't fair. But it's such a hallmark of unregulated markets. And the worst part about it is before the scandal, before the blow up, everybody's like, oh no, hey man, we don't want regulators. That's the 1%, man. They're out to screw us. And then after the scandal and after the thievery, people go, oh, yeah, maybe we should have had the regulators here. It's really, as an older guy that's been in the market, and I often say this on the site, a little bit of regulation isn't such a bad thing. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. I'm not actually quite sure what the Canadian crypto exchange of choice would be these days. I remember Alex Sturck; he was really jazzed about this exchange Einstein, but I haven't heard anything from that at all. Shane, if you were here in Canada and you wanted to trade crypto, and Andrew as well, what would you guys recommend? Shane and Andrew are both, I know they're local here in Vancouver, and they're in the call here, but maybe they don't want to answer. But we'll see what. Oh, Andrew says I got to step away. Oh, that sucks. Shane, are you still here? Anyway, if a name does come to mind, I'll mention it, Burnett. But just off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure. And of course, any of you guys in the lounge, if any of you guys are Canadians, I don't know whether you are or not. Coin fields, I don't know. I don't. That doesn't ring a bell to me. And it's kind of weird, I guess maybe because Canada isn't such a, isn't as stiff as the Americans are, with having accounts on these exchanges. I haven't even really thought about it, to be honest with you, because I'm all over on 20 different places. Well, Apollo's an American exchange, aren't they? I think he was asking about Canadian exchanges. That's a good question. I don't know what the alternative. I did see somebody make reference to a Canadian exchange, and I think it was back east, but the name has slipped my mind. So you caught me with my zipper down. I just I don't know off the top of my head. What's this? How can new USSR get into level 1 course? USSR. I haven't seen a USSR reference in a long time. Are you really? A new user? Okay. I think our next level 1 intake will probably be in like May. They're right now, the current level 1ers are going through the latter part of eating their vegetables. What do you think, Colleen? You feel like you got a big dose of eating your vegetables? Do you understand why we call this eating your vegetables now? I like to pick on Khalid because she's my proxy in this current level 1 program. And Crypto Odyssey, what do you think about eating your vegetables? Does it make sense why we call it that? So they're right in the middle of that. And as I said, next sort of level 1 intake will be in May. Max also says he's pretty sure that you can use Kraken in Canada. Well, I can use almost all of these exchanges. Like the Canadian government hasn't said, like to the Americans, your U.S. government has said you are not allowed to have an account there. You're not allowed to have an account there. So that's the difference. Like in Canada, they haven't come out and said thou shalt not have an account there. So as a result, I think a lot of Canadians have accounts, with companies that are overseas. So like we've got accounts at Polo and OKCoin and BitMEX and all that, but a lot of those places, you Americans, you're not allowed to be there. Go figure. Okay, so I think I handled most of the questions here. I didn't see any others. Someone says that Dav says that his project should be up and live by the end of March, and he has about 50 coins on it right now. So thank you, Kevin, for that update. And yeah, okay. Okay, so let's just quickly pop on over to the Twitter feed just to explain what the heck it is I'm thinking here. All right, Adam. Yeah, well, and I have to. You asked a question. Julian says he asked a question. Let's see what the hell Julian asked here. Julian, where's Julian? Julian, I am too. No. Where is his question? Julian. I don't see it. Can you post it again, Julian? I asked a question. Yeah, I don't, and it's weird because sometimes this YouTube chat, maybe it doesn't start until a little bit later. Could you just cut and paste that question? What did you say here? You have a ref link on your dashboard site, Jay Hoodland. Hoodied. If your brother uses that, he gets a discount. Oh, thanks, Jacques. Can you explain why the chart works if there is no divergence between price and RS? Can you explain why this chart works if there's no divergence between price and RS? Why this chart? What's this chart referring to? Is there a specific chart I'm supposed to be looking at? Not quite sure. And there's no divergence between price and RS. Am I assuming RS is RSI? Is that like an indicator or something that you're looking at there? I think I need some help here, Julian. If there is a chart or something you want me to look at, let me know. The link. Where's the link? The link. Oh, did you maybe put it in the comments? Is that what you did? No, it says 0 comments. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. Is somebody else that sees Julian, maybe you see his question and his link. You can click on it or something. I guess the chart is not loading. Are you on the site, Julian? RSI. Jay Hodid. All right. I'm trying here. I'm not blowing you off. I'm posting a link, but I guess it's not working. Oh yeah, maybe they don't. Maybe they won't let you post a link. Keep in mind, on balance, it's not like a trade idea has to have a divergence to work. But why we use divergence is just simply it tilts the odds of the trade idea that we're thinking about working in our favor. You don't have to have a divergence to take a trade. And remember, trading, there's nothing written in stone about trading. It's all about personal fit. But, I don't know whether you're one of Da Vinci's people, Julian, but his little Davo setup, there's no divergence there. It's just simply, do I see a W in the indicators in both volume and price momentum? And if I do, that's a pretty powerful signal that something wants to happen. So also too, I'm not really the biggest fan of using RSI to hunt for divergences. What I've found is RSI works really well at identifying overbought and oversold conditions. It can set up divergences, no doubt about it. And those divergence signals are sexy, but it's not my preferred tool. I actually like to use moving average relationships to show me price divergence versus RSI divergences. And of course, that's a key concept in our level 1 program when they get into the candy store. Is the tools that I like to use, and you've probably seen them on my charts. If I'm going to set up a chart sort of matrix here, let's see if I can find one. This is sort of my default template. This happens to be the Chicago Bitcoin contract. But I like to, me personally, my personal preference is I like to follow OBV. And I love finding OBV divs. And oh my God, there are so many. In fact, a lot of these ideas, I don't know whether this one has it, but let's see. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to hit. OBV divergences are just the shit, man. They're so awesome. But hopefully you can see here, right? Something's disconnected. Price is making lower lows, but OBV is actually making higher lows, and money is pouring into this thing. I love OBV divs. Oh my God, they are just the shit. Put away the RSI. You want like a really, really powerful divergence tool that tells you that, hey, this asset is a lot stronger than what price is leading you to believe. Go and hunt OBV divs. They are just, oh my goodness, they're so sexy. But you can see on here, for price momentum, I actually prefer, I do have the RSI on here just in the background, sort of as validation. But I actually like to do my price momentum analysis slightly different, in that I actually break the question into 2 parts. And I use this indicator below. It's my modified Williams percentage R indicator. I use this to actually highlight overbought and oversold. And then me personally, if I want to hunt for price momentum divergences, I love to use the MACD histogram. And this is just simply a study of moving averages. One thing I don't like about RSI, and I actually hear this a lot from people, is that can you validate that the RSI is a divergence even though it's plotted off of clotheslines, and yet you draw your divergences using wicks and tails? Well, that's one of the reasons why I don't like using RSI to identify divergences, and I'll use things like moving average relationships. That in essence they're almost agnostic to the actual short-term price action. But they were, kind of like what you see here is this asset made a new low here, but the MACD histogram did not. And in actual fact, you can even just paint a nice little price divergence right here. And I can go boopity boop, lower low. And then I look at my MACD and I go, hey, no lower low. And then this darn thing goes and W's out here. So I would say that this market is in divergence right now. And it just, just at a conversation, let's see if RSI even painted a divergence here. Yep. Well, in this case, RSI did paint a divergence as well. So hopefully you can see RSI higher low and broke out. But me personally, the indicator that I like to use to hunt for and validate divergence is the MACD histogram. And that's just Brian. So ironically enough, what you actually have to understand here, whoever asked this question, I think it was Julian, is really what we actually have to get you to is the point where you can actually study the market and sort of figure out what signaling systems work best for you. We'll sort of paint the picture. What does a good trade look like? You really ought to have 3 unrelated reasons. We'll paint the picture, what kind of risk taker are you? And so then that dictates how you're going to manage the stake that you're working with. But at the end of the day, kind of like what Davo went through, Da Vinci and his Davo indicator, was really a question of him taking all of the information and just poring over charts, putting the time and effort in, and what really appealed to him. And it turns out that he absolutely loved when OBV and RSI or Willie happened to W at the same time. Yeah, that's right, Andre. Huge part about trading and actually being successful at this is going through the process of learning what actually works for you. And that's the irony of all of these sort of trading courses that I see online is, they're like, trade my system and you'll make $1 million. But I can absolutely guarantee you. In fact, they did a study, and I always used to like to tell my level oneers, this is a really funny study. It was like Morgan Stanley or something like this, like 20, 30 years ago, took a sample pool of like 100 people just off the street, just totally random, and gave them all like, $5,000 just sort of play accounts on their site, like kind of demos. And just simply said, we're going to send you a asset to buy every morning. And it's your job to go in and buy the asset and, of course, manage the position. And then like at the end of like a 2 or 3 month period, they had everybody come together. And it turns out, even though everybody got exactly the same thing to buy at exactly the same time every single day, it turns out nobody had the exact same ending balance. Now, why the hell would that happen? And it's just because us humans, we can actually get the same message, but the irony of it all is that two people might actually hear very different things. And then actual trade execution is a big part of this sort of human component of trading. So go figure, right? You can tell people, look, at this system works 100% of the time, and you still can't get them to follow your system exactly. And so like I gave up that sort of thinking years ago because it just doesn't work. And I just simply said, look, at these are the criteria around a good trade idea. These are the general criteria around a bad trade idea. Don't go chasing the market, right? Have your 3 unrelated reasons. And the irony of it all is if you can find 3 unrelated reasons, odds are you could probably find 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So what ends up happening is one person comes into the TRI lounge and says, hey, look, I got this idea. It's setting up off of this, and I'll look at it. I'll look at it from a completely different perspective using my tools. And it's like, yeah, I can see the trade. That makes sense. So go figure. What are you guys saying over there? I love MACD histogram. Well, that's good. OBV plus RSI double at the same time. W execution. Yeah, totally. Okay, so I don't want to be here all day, and of course you guys don't want me chatting forever here, so let's sort of get on with the review. We left off last week, ironically enough, with Litecoin hitting a profit objective. And ironically enough, this was sort of in the face of a lot of sort of crypto negativity. So it just goes to show you never know what the hell's going to happen in life. Just trade your setups. Here's more sort of conversation about that Quadriga. So sad. And it kind of pisses me off a little bit more that this is a Canadian story because now the Canadians are going to be tarred. And generally speaking, as Canadians, we're pretty good people. But if anything, it just goes to show not 100%. You're never going to have 100%. There were even some bad apples in this space. I don't know how this story ends. I don't think anybody knows how this story ends. And like I said, I thought it was actually kind of interesting to see that the Cryptopia guys are saying, hey, we might actually get the exchange back up and running. So go figure. I wouldn't make any grand conclusions about any of this stuff. If you are here and your assets are in jeopardy, then, unfortunately, you're just going to have to ride the story out. Keep in mind, there's still people waiting for the Mt. Gox settlements, and one of our OGers on the site talks about that constantly. So, maybe 5 years from now, we're going to be still talking about Quadriga in the courts. Tough to say. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. No good. I thought this was kind of amusing and really just to explain sort of my thinking behind this. I thought it was really interesting to see that, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be completely mistaken, but if I'm not mistaken, a good portion of Mr. Trump's voter base are not highly educated people. And I found it really interesting that a lot of sort of his voter base didn't really understand what happened with the tax. Um, and I don't know whether it was a tax cut or whatever, but they actually started to get really upset that their tax refunds were quite a bit less than they were anticipating. And just sort of my comment around all this, because I was, just joshing back and forth with people, was, I don't know what the outcome of this is. I don't understand the tax. I haven't studied the tax code. I'm not exactly sure what happened. But I find it very interesting that if he loses that power base of sort of that right wing, relatively uneducated, little bit militant sort of audience, then that could be trouble for Mr. Trump. He really needs that power base. So I thought it was just kind of interesting that some of the rhetoric coming out of this reaction was, "I'm never voting for you again. I got less on my tax refund," right, and all that kind of stuff. That's sort of what my comment was with regard to that. This was so funny. I mean, it's good for a laugh just to listen to this tweet. But I got to tell you, this is pretty damn scary. Now robots can basically, function in an adverse environment too, and continue their task. So if you wanna laugh, listen to the voiceover. It's just hilarious, but it's also a little scary too. Oh my goodness! And of course, Stephen Hawking's and all those kind of people are like, you want to know what you really should be worried about? You should be worried about these guys basically deciding that the human race is irrelevant and them removing us from this planet. Sure hope we don't get to that stage, but anyway. Really cool talk, and I'm a super big fan of oh, and I'm supposed to say, I keep forgetting this. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell button, so when you're notified when we do another one of these shows, right? Am I supposed to do all that stuff? Please. So I see there's 61 people watching right now on YouTube. We got 9 ups and of course 1 down. There's always somebody that downvotes me. I don't know why, but oh well. Smash that like button. Yeah, that's what I'm supposed to say. Smash it. Anyway, I just saw that there out of the corner of my eye, so I thought I'd say that. So I'm a really big fan of WD Gann, and actually we have a new site member, relatively new, and he's like super jazzed about Gann. So we're having lots and lots of fun conversations in the lounge, and of course Gann was super jazzed about celestial events and the effects on the planet and stuff. So somebody said, hey, you really ought to just listen to this Crypto Damas guy. And of course, no one's going to be right 100% of the time. Take all of this with a grain of salt, but really cool. I love this kind of stuff. But it's a bit esoteric. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. In fact, Colleen, you never did PM me. You wanted me to explain that Jupiter-Earth stuff, Jupiter-Mars stuff. And I said, PM me afterward, and I tell you, remember last week? Anyway. Noticing a lot of phishing campaigns are still going on. So please, if you are in this space, understand there are a lot of nefarious characters. I am constantly getting calls in Chinese on my cell phone, which makes no sense whatsoever. They don't realize I don't speak English. But, I have an account on OKCoins, so somebody obviously got my phone number from them. And it's so funny how they just go on and on and on in Chinese, like assuming that I know how to speak Chinese. But keep in mind, people, this stuff is rampant in this space. In LA traffic. Oh, that's fun. At least you have a nice car. And actually, I heard recently, Joshua, they said that Tesla said that he's actually got like a dog function in the cars. I don't know whether you have dogs, but it turns out that in Tesla cars now, there's like an internal temperature gauge, and you can set your car to dog mode. And even if the car is off, if the internal temperature gets up to a certain level, the air conditioner will kick in just so that your pet is not stressed out. I thought that was so cool when I heard of that. And of course, whenever I hear Tesla, I always think about you. So turn the traffic to 1.5 speed. That's good. Nice to see you too, Benjamin. Now, this was a really interesting development through the week. This shocked me because what's really interesting is I've been following this Bitcoin inverted chart for a while. And if you go back on the old broiler chicken shows and stuff like that from weeks and weeks and weeks ago, you can actually see in the background. Every once in a while, I'll sort of thumb through this, and I actually went because I was just like, well, geez, I've been working on this chart for a while, but I found it fascinating that for some reason, some group online decided that I had stolen this from somebody else, and they were just shitting all over me. You're a thief, and oh, you got 10,000 followers and you have to steal somebody else's idea. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Because this is like one of the oldest ideas in technical analysis is if you want to validate a bottom, turn the chart upside down and it should look like a top. And then conversely, if you want to validate a top, turn the chart upside down and it should look like a bottom. And so, if you were sort of following the Twitter feed and these people were coming out and accusing me of stealing and stuff, I was just like, what the heck are these people going on about? Because this is one of the most basic concepts in technical analysis you'll ever see. But anyway, so, like I follow this. Yeah, so you did see that, eh? And I've been following this chart for quite a while, and you can see all the back and forth studies I've been doing, and it actually shocked me that happened. And you can even see I said I got really upset, which kind of sucks because you really shouldn't get upset. But I think half of what they want to do, there's a lot of people that have really, really bad karma in this world, and it's almost like they're just looking for a reason to shit on you. I don't even interact with any of these people. I certainly don't follow any of them. There's one or two old students that took my program that happen to like this group. And I like to just sort of keep an eye on old students and how they're doing. So maybe they sort of see me following them. I don't know. But I was quite shocked at this accusation, which was completely baseless. And this is the one thing that really bugs me about crypto, or not crypto, like crypto Twitter, I guess, Twitter and social media is Jacques, maybe. But now you made me lose my train of thought, you and your crazy 13 friends. Jacques. But, like I came out and said, I don't steal anything, go away, right? And what I find fascinating is I don't even interact with any of these people. It's baffling. But oh well, what can you do? Crazy world. And actually, this is great. Like our level 1 instructor just basically was chiming in here. If you're actually talking about people stealing a chart and all they did was just turn the chart upside down to create an inverted chart, what are you, crazy? So thank you, Grim, for coming to my defense. I do find it interesting that, and we look at almost anything in crypto. This Vertcoin's a great example where, one might argue, let's go say back here. Right. And it's all about, opportunity cost. Opportunity is now here, all that kind of conversation. Right. You look at a chart like that and you go, oh, this thing's over. This thing's a piece of shit. It's going to zero, all that kind of talk. Right. And it's all, opportunity is now here. Opportunity is nowhere. And I look at an asset like this and I go, the risk has actually been taken out of the market. And is there kind of any chance that I could get a rally up into here to generate a free position? And this is the way institutional investors act in the marketplace. And the cool part about it is there's a whole bunch of crypto stocks now. So what I'm noticing, well, that's not what I wanted to show you. What I'm noticing now is that people are coming into the stock market and playing crypto through the stock market. And here's, a really good example. This is a stock that I kind of like. This is Tim Draper's stock that he recently bought into, the whole provenance thing, using the blockchain and sort of artwork and stuff like that. And this tweet was just basically all about smart money is coming into the market and buying up equity that's sort of related to crypto. And we started to get some, anecdotal evidence that some of the, crypto, some of the the pension fund industry, and sort of institutional money is coming in. And I was like, there's some really cool names in equity land. And of course, this whole space is on its knees right now. So what a perfect time for smart money to be buying. Makes sense to me. I like to follow options. I do a lot of options trading. And here's a really good example of an asset that just basically had its lunch handed to it, is starting to break down trends, starting to show signs of a little bit of life. And if I can go and buy this January 2020 $40 call, and the market does nothing more than just a classic 50% retracement of this down move, which is very normal for assets, then this option will be worth about $11. So if I can go and buy that call at $2 and I can potentially see $11 on that call option, I got to take that trade every day of the week. I mean, it's just that simple. So, the great part about it is our level 3ers, once they sort of get through that program, they get all sort of schooled up on how to approach this type of trading. And they're just in there kicking butt. I mean, we could probably spend at least a couple hours just going through all of the trades that have done this through that Christmas dump there. And this just happens to be another one that looks really interesting to me. Any kind of sort of test of these lows, and I might go in there and do some shopping. Interesting to see. And actually, later on through the week, I had a really great sort of illustration of how Binance is basically eating Trex's lunch. We had a breakout, I guess it was this name here. This storage. And the great part about it is tons of TRI people banging out doubles, just wonderful to see. People super, super happy. But I found it really interesting just to see the difference in volume between Trex and Binance, where the Trex breakout was on 5 million and the Binance breakout was on 39 million, or like almost like, what about 7-8 times the volume. And remember that these exchanges make their income off of commissions. So quite literally what it means is Binance is doing about 7-8 times the business that Trex is doing. And that was a very interesting tell. Interestingly enough, too, the chart patterns basically align. And sure enough, this thing broke out there as well. But really, really interesting comment on the difference in size. And it also, like I said in the tweet, it explains to me now, because I was a little bit surprised recently that, Trex actually came out and said, oh, there's no fees to trade this coin. There's no fees to do that and stuff. And I was like, wow, I can't remember the last time Trex did like a promotional campaign. And I guess I can kind of understand why, is they're just like, holy crap, these guys are just eating our lunch. Binance, they're sort of bucking the overall trend. From what I understand, they are sort of the popular exchange now within crypto. The guy running the exchange seems to be extremely popular right across crypto Twitter. I'm a little bit worried that they always say, those who the gods wish to destroy first make drunk with power. These guys are flirting with disaster a little bit here, but we'll keep an eye on it. Right now, they are sort of the flavor du jour. And like we even have like site members. Well, Julian, for example, he loves Binance and hates all the other exchanges. So interesting to see that they're getting their decentralized exchange up and running. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, but a lot of people in this space have been waiting for this event where we have decentralized exchanges so that you can not have to worry about your coin so much in one central depository or repository, I guess. And this is sort of that ongoing story. So it should be really interesting to see how this plays out. The energy vehicles business seems to be extremely hot right now. Beautiful charts. Like hopefully everybody can see the W's down here. Nice big trading range. So 50% level, just like I showed you with that overstock. There's lots of upside room for a rally here. And I went and bought a position on this. I'm playing this through a derivative though. So it's a little bit esoteric. I'm not going to get into the derivative trade here today. But the long and short of it here is I'm just loving this electric vehicle rally here. And actually, I think I even put another tweet out. Look at these things. They're just exploding higher here. And the great part about Blink is they're not really in the electric vehicle business. They're in the, we're going to charge up your electric vehicle. And so this would be kind of like, you're not in the car business. Cars are super hot, but you're in the gas station business. And sort of that's the way I look at Blink. And I really, the story, it sits well with me. I really like the story. The position that I bought is like a 2023 position. So I'm in no hurry here whatsoever. But, with Mr. Tesla and the success of the Tesla concept, I'm seeing a lot of other players coming into the space. Of course, China has their Tesla proxy, which I haven't looked at the chart of it lately. And actually, I look at Tesla and it's a pretty damn expensive stock. And I actually heard recently that Mr. Druckenmiller actually has got a pretty big short position working on Tesla right now. So we'll see how that goes. But I do like all these little guys coming in and getting a shot in the arm from all the hard lifting that Tesla names have done. So I'm super jazzed about that little Blink. I think it's a great looking little stock. Let's see, what else was I talking about here? Oh boy, good old Joey Diamond. And this is such a hallmark of institutional players. I've seen this happen so many times where if a market goes zooming up and the higher ups want to take a position, but they can't buy up markets, in our Colleen, do you remember that? In fact, actually, it was a question in the quiz today. What kind of markets do institutions buy? You have to understand, they actually buy down markets, which is totally counterintuitive. But what they actually want to do is they actually want to get you as the public, and I don't think there's many institutional people who watch these videos, but they want to get you, the public, to panic and sell. So what ends up happening with these guys, they see a hot market and they want to just throw a bucket of water on it and cool it down so that they can get in. And what a surprise. Miss Joey comes out recently and says that JP Morgan has now got its stable coin going. He came out with such inflammatory statements like Bitcoin is a fraud. I don't know where he actually legally can actually get off, because fraud, that's kind of like these assholes, right? Saying that I'm a thief. Like those are fighting words. Saying a word like fraud, that's a pretty heavy word. And yet there's absolutely no basis behind declaring Bitcoin as a fraud. I find it shocking that he would actually use such inflammatory comments. But, given what we've seen over the past year or two, I would imagine that these bankers were pretty stressed about crypto infringing on their business models. Now they've sort of thrown a bucket of water on the space. And, the worst part about this, everybody listening to this is the worst part about this, is that we're now heading into, and, it's going to take a few years to get through this sort of peak and then the next recession and all that. But we're heading into like a 17 and a half year growth cycle here. And that implies higher stock prices. So what drives stock prices to actually go up? And one of the key components, of course, is profitability. Can companies like JP Morgan squeeze out as much earnings as possible and grow earnings? That's what gets stock prices up. And things like, they use words like efficiencies. And I would actually make an argument, and like I said, to all sort of crypto enthusiasts, this is like a total slap in the face. But the irony of it all is the people that are going to benefit the most from crypto are the very people that we hate the most, which really sucks. But hey, in fact, one of the questions in today's class was, we as small fish, we don't have the power to be able to change the system. So we might as well just accept what the system is and then try to take advantage of it as much as possible to go and buy our Lambos and our islands. And if we want to fuck off, just, take off and leave this society. But as I said, I would actually argue that the biggest beneficiaries of crypto and this whole efficiency move with things like the blockchain and verification of data, and there's a word I'm looking for. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. The banks actually are going to be the ones that actually benefit the most. And the irony of it all is that by the end of this, I wouldn't be surprised if like 80-90% of all bank functions are completely automated. And there are very few humans that are actually employed in banking down the road. So ironic. It's interesting to see, and this I think is actually one of these funny situations. You don't see it very often, but sometimes they say good news for Wall Street can be bad news for Main Street, and vice versa. Good news for Main Street can be bad news for Wall Street. And I think this is a really good example of bad news on Main Street actually means good news for Wall Street. In that, we had just a horrific retail sales number came out. It was like the weakest since like 2008, 2009, just a total train wreck. And of course, we all know what's going on in Europe and in China and Asia. And, the global economy is hemorrhaging here because of Mr. Trump. But the long and short of it here is the stock market in North America actually might do okay if we get this kind of bad economic data, because the stock market here in North America is all worried about the Fed continuing to raise interest rates. So if we get this horrible retail sales data, then that gives the Fed sort of that permission to go on pause and continue on pause. And ironically enough, the stock market turns around after it has sort of a knee-jerk reaction to this report, and it closes higher. So that's sort of what I was thinking here. It's kind of interesting, and like I'm always interested in taking a good short, and I love shorting the stock market if it's in basically a shorting window. And I've been sort of talking to the public, and I talk about this on the site all the time about, okay, well, is there a short trade that's going to come in? We have location, check. If we look at our indicators, they were in divergence. They're trying to clean themselves up here. And if we get a big spat of buying in here, we may actually get like little Davos that fire here. I couldn't be a buyer of an asset, regardless of how sexy the Davo was in this window. That's just not me, and it's not my trading plan. But the point that I just made in this sort of 3-step setup that we've been talking to you guys for a while is, yep, I've got location, reload zone, up against previous highs. I've got divergences, right? Willie is technically overbought. And now I'm just waiting on structure. Give me some sort of M to work with. And you can see the market's just like, man, no M's here. Sorry. So as a result, I'm just sitting waiting for Godot. My hunch is kind of like what we have here. My hunch is we actually have to go up and tag value high and probably fill in this little notch right up here. So if you want to make a reference for the stock market, that's like 2860 or so on the S&Ps. But also too, what's really interesting is if you look at like the SPY and stuff, there's some cheeky gaps up here that really should be filled in. And then actually, I did charts a while ago where I'm at, pretty strong January barometer reading. But let's see, where the hell do I have it? I think it's over here. Was it on the Dow? Yeah, you can see all these gaps, right? And we still haven't M'd out on RSI yet here. But one of these charts, I thought it was this one. Yeah, fudge. Too many charts. Anyway, one of these charts I actually do sort of a time series forecast. And I find it fascinating that if we just play connect the dots, that we could easily have the stock market go to new highs right into a very acceptable seasonal window for stocks to actually make a peak. Sell in May and walk away, and then the summer silly season, that's totally realistic in my opinion. There's nothing out of the ordinary there whatsoever. So pretty dramatic rally, but there's just not enough reasons, no setups yet for me to be thinking about shorting just yet. So I'm just not. It's too bad I didn't have that chart up because that was a really good study I did. I don't know where the hell it is. Maybe it's over here. Might have been this one. Nope. Oh well. It's around here somewhere. Okay, let's just keep moving forward here just so I get through all this stuff. And what time is it? It's 12:30, so I have to get going here in about a half an hour. Kind of fun joke about, if you're Canadian, then you all understand Canadian Tire money. It'd be really cool if Canadian Tire came out and actually put their Canadian Tire money on the blockchain. That would be so cool. And if anybody is out there listening from Canadian Tire, that would be such an awesome marketing piece. That would just be great. Anyway. All right, so we talked about the electric vehicle stocks. This Richard Hart guy, and it's interesting. People are like actually like public petitions, save Richard, let's get Richard happy again, all that kind of stuff. But can you get cancer from these news releases from CNBC about this guy? And I was like, that kind of news release? Yep. But me being silly. Now, this is just yet more anecdotal evidence about how the machine, these guys get paid a lot of money. Like these commentators, I wouldn't be so. There's Mr. Happy. But where is this guy here? I mean, these guys, I'd be willing to bet his annual income, he probably gets paid like a good $500,000 bucks. And these people just, they don't get it. He's basically intermingling the JP Morgan coin with things like Ripple, which makes sense, with Bitcoin. It's like, you can't even say that you're new to the space anymore. These guys have been reporting on this shit now for like a year and a half. I don't get it. Why are they so stupid? It doesn't make any sense to me. The only reason why it does make sense to me is that there is a concerted effort to try and undermine this space. Something just doesn't make sense about this. And if they actually wanted to employ somebody who could actually talk educationally, if that makes any sense, informed wise, um, it would be in their best interests. I mean, it's shocking that they're still coupling things like XRP and Bitcoin together and calling them the same asset. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So anyway, that's what that rant was all about. I find this interesting. The irony of it all is that, Donald Trump, in my opinion, could actually probably walk right back into the White House in that 2020 election if he just shuts up and just lets the Democrats blow themselves up. I appreciate that there's a young new congresswoman who basically wants to tax everything into the ground and wants to basically instill socialism in our society. If Donald Trump wants to get reelected, just shut up, don't say anything, and let these people blow themselves up. That's the easiest way for the Democrats to lose power. So that's the irony of all this. And this is the way politicians have worked. I've been on this damn planet for 50 years. Ironically enough, people don't vote for necessarily one person or another. They just vote for, hey, I do not want that person in the office. Right. So like Hillary Clinton, I don't really think that people voted for Donald Trump. I think they did not want Hillary in there. Come hell or high water, no more Clintons. So, we're listening. The Democrats are blowing themselves up. And this is exactly what happened through the last time the Democrats had control of the Congress is they rammed through socialized medicine and socialized healthcare. It turned out to be an absolute train wreck. And in the next election, the American populace said, whoa, what the hell is this shit? And just ran them out of office. So, that's what this tweet was all about, is that, ironically enough, politicians don't change. And, if it's the right wing that's in power, they say things that just piss people off. And then if the left wing comes into power, they say things that just piss people off. And I don't think that this young congresswoman, I don't think she understands how polarizing her statements of, 70% tax on the rich are going to work. It might speak well to the younger generation, but remember that, there's a hell of a lot of baby boomers that are basically comfortable in retirement now. They don't want to have a whole bunch of new taxes. And, you might get a situation where they actually have a very violent reaction to this kind of talk. And so that's what this was all about. It's so ironic, I swear. This world, man, it's so cliche. I think everybody in the crypto space should acknowledge the fact that we're still in a down market. And I have, I listen to some people, talk, and I think, their basic message, crypto's still in a bear. It hasn't turned back up yet. Just cool your jets. I like these kind of moving average studies, especially, site people build these scripts so that I have a nice color code. It's pretty easy for me to see what the trend is. And you can see that we're still mostly red. It was interesting to see Tron perking up here, but I also noticed too, a lot of people recently have been jumping on the short bandwagon of Tron. So we might see that thing get whacked back down. But primarily speaking, the trend in these bigger names is still down. And so we just, that's the backdrop you have to sort of have in the back of your mind. This is not the time to go balls deep in crypto. It's fun to go and trade the altcoins. And if you can double your money, awesome. I suggest in our school, in our trading, if you're going to be trading these things, if you're not in a trade, the best place to be is in cash. And, the irony of, using something like Bitcoin as your sort of base proxy currency is, in a bull market, you look like a genius. In a bear market, it's an absolute train wreck. So considering we're still in a bear, I think we're entering into sort of what I like to call chop Vegas mode. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to fall apart, but at the same time, too, it also doesn't mean that we're in a bull yet. And you just got to cool your jets. I know a lot of people want to be super bull of crypto, but we just got to wait for it, guys. I really think so. Wait for it. Same comment in the stock market. Of course, now this is the exact opposite. So like I said, if Trump wants to win re-election, he just has to do nothing. Just be quiet, right? You know, his State of the Union address was very professional. He hit all his points. Awesome. But now he's going and inflaming people by saying that, well, we're going to declare a state of emergency along our southern border to force the construction of my wall, because I guess it was a political promise to his base. And so he wants to make good on his political promise. And what I found fascinating that's coming out of this is that now he himself even expects to be sued up the butt. And what's fascinating is the lawsuits are coming from like 20 different directions. You know, you're getting like the environmentalists who are suing. That's an interesting conversation. You're also getting landowners. They don't like this wall. They're suing. And I actually saw one guy who said he lives right on the Rio Grande. He says, you don't get it. A wall's not going to stop people. These people are desperate. They're starving. They're fleeing for their lives because people are trying to kill them. You think a wall is going to stop them? I mean, they're just, you know, and I was kind of like, well, let's go and buy shovel futures or tunnel futures. When people are desperate, you know, the logic of a wall stopping them it's not enough. And the worst part about it is, you know, like, remember we used to have all the stories about like the Cubans trying to get from Cuba to Miami, and you know, like thousands of them in, well, not thousands, maybe hundreds of them in like a fishing boat, and the fishing boat sinks and a whole bunch of people die. You know, really, if we actually want to solve the problem here, and this is just a Brian rant, we actually have to go down into those countries and figure out what the hell is going on there and fix the problem. And the problem is half the time in these Latin American countries is just absolutely stunning corruption. And, you know, to a certain degree, some people say, well, you know, those, you know, institutions were put in place by the United States of America, so they don't want to admit that, because then they would have to admit partial guilt. But anyway, you know, that's here nor there. It is interesting to watch the back and forth, and this will be a really interesting lawsuit that's probably going to dominate the conversation. My hunch is, like, if this has to go through the legal system, Mr. Trump, of course, like I heard somewhere he's got like 1,400 different active lawsuits against him pending right now. So just another lawsuit to throw on the pile. It's no big deal to him, I don't think. But this should be a really interesting soap opera to see how it plays out. Of course, you know, I was talking a little bit about how some of these coins were popping on the weekend, so that's cool to see. And, you know, by all means, if you're trading like little old ladies, just make damn sure to have your open orders working. Bunch of people popped off doubles on the site, and, you know, they were popping all over the place. Here's one that hit one of my double levels, and this was a great one because a lot of site people were also in this trade with me. So they got off a whole bunch of doubles, just, you know, peaches and cream. I love this kind of stuff. And I was saying, you know, on that event, it was great to go into the lounge, and it was a pretty quiet Saturday. Usually Saturdays are kind of quiet around TRI. We're all exhausted after the week and we need a day off. And it was great to see all the people posting, woo, got a double, yay. This is a really interesting development going on in crypto and Bitcoin, in that, you know, hopefully we can actually get to the point where you can do crypto transactions and not need like the internet, because there are worries that the internet is becoming more and more censored. As time is going by, if I understand correctly, Russia is trying to create sort of a great wall where they can, basically shield them, Russia from outside contact. And I suppose that works both ways, in and out. China, of course, you know, their whole issues with the internet and how they want to censor it. So I really love this kind of conversation where, you know, don't need internet or satellite to actually still do a Bitcoin transaction. I thought that was so cool. And then finally, you know, yesterday I'm all getting all wrapped up in crypto ideas, and there's so many of them, you know, like I was showing you just very quickly. And basically I'm just going through my list and just every day looking at different names. There's a bunch of them that are looking like this. Now, somebody in TRI Lounge yesterday said, "Oh, hey, Brian, is it too late to get in on the VTC?" And absolutely. The story is you missed this trade. Don't even look at this now. And if you're going to think about joining, you're going to take your fib, you're going to take the high, you're going to take it back against the low. And you can see where we can actually start thinking about getting back in good old reload zones. My hunch is, and really there's 78.6. Notice all these little lows in here. My hunch is if we go down a lower time frame, you probably see some price gaps down in here. So if you're thinking about joining VTC, at best, all you can do is work your bids. But don't chase, please. Nobody has any business chasing whatsoever. But that doesn't mean there aren't new names that are perking up, right? I just showed you earlier. We're having that conversation about divergence. And of course, I love OBV divs. I mean, goodness gracious. I really think this is a buyer's market. And I seem to recall about a month or two ago, I said on one of these public YouTube videos that I think you could probably go buy like randomly, say a dozen, maybe a couple dozen of these names. And probably most of them will give you doubles if you just sit there and do absolutely nothing and just wait through the spring and the summer. I mean, look at this chart. This is ridiculous. I mean, here we are down here. I mean, look at the insane premiums that people paid into that nutso peak. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. Look at the size of that wick. That's crazy. I mean, if I go and buy this asset down here, where do I have to see the price go? Let's say I went and bought today. Boom, 0.6. Where do I have to see the price to go to actually get a quote-unquote risk-free trade? Well, I only have to see the price of the asset go to basically there. Is that realistic? Is that asking too much? I don't think so. I think that's actually not unrealistic at all. So, and I had sort of said at the beginning of this video, I don't know whether I was recording or not, but I even said, I mean, this is ridiculous. Anybody who's just getting into crypto right now, you are given an absolute gift here. Go slowly. There's no hurry whatsoever. You want to identify what type of risk taker you are. If you want to be a little old lady, there's nothing wrong with that. Go and do your little sort of 1% nanny nibbles. I think Dav in his rendition of my little old lady risk strategy, and I really need him to change the name of his trade setup to something else. And if you guys could maybe ask him to think of a new name, because it's not, I mean, it's almost confusing when he says I'm running the little old lady setup, because it's not technically a setup. But the point here is that, even little old ladies should be able to do very, very well here. And just get in there and, the great part about crypto is you don't even have to start with much money. Try and get yourself into a free position, sell half on a double. And if you have to sit 6-8 months to wait for that double to happen, well, so be it. And then once you get your double fill and you get your original capital back in your hands, rinse and repeat. Is it a long one? I'm sorry. Am I talking way too much? I should probably wind this up, eh? All right. So why don't we, I think that actually takes us to the end of the tweets. Yeah. So in essence, that's it. So JD, I hope I haven't taxed you too much here today. We did speak a little bit to the level oneers and tried to answer a couple of their questions. There's a couple of questions that people asked in the YouTube page. I answered them a little while ago. We'll just do one more sort of quick scan to see if there's any new questions. If I don't see any new ones, then we'll call it a day. Anne says, it's Mandarin. You called Trump voters dump. I did? You're quite liberal. Well, Actually, ironically enough, I'm actually pretty conservative. It's just that I'm all about PMA, Hans, and I don't even know if Hans, if you're even still here, but I'm all about being a nice person, as Canadian, all that kind of stuff. So that's primarily the problem that I have with Mr. Trump is I personally perceive that I don't think he's a very nice person, and I really like nice people. So that's sort of my comment there. Ironically enough, if you were going to actually, are you left wing, Brian? Are you right wing? I'm actually more right wing than left. Okay. Traders on Twitter like to present anything they say as novel and people buy it. Okay. Binance is corrupt. Oh, so Crypto Nug says, I believe Binance is corrupt on many levels. So I've sort of talked a little bit about that earlier, eh? Those who the gods wish to destroy first make drunk with power. And I got a feeling those Binance guys, they're feeling pretty powerful these days. Okay. Nugs, extortion for listings and a big positive coin. Like dumping along with VCs. Okay, well, geez, bunch of stuff. Crypto Nugs has got a bunch of pieces of wisdom. Not listing projects they say they would if they won votes, then supposed to list for free, but demand listing fees. Yeah. Well, that's good old crypto, eh? Oh, isn't that interesting? Did the YouTube video pause there? Okay. Okay. Yeah, so Crypto Nugs is not overly impressed with Binance. The Ultra Hodler says, balls deep. I can go one further than that. Remember the Ren and Stimpy show? Oh, yeah, I remember that. Or one of the characters, can't remember which, contemplated his novel and fell into the thing. Okay, interesting. All right. Best stock pick? I don't know. I don't really have a favorite. And that's the thing. I mean, like I'm all about location, JD. So, I may have a story that I really like. In fact, probably my favorite stock right now is what would be my favorite one? I really like actually. I used to do financings for the mining industry here in Vancouver. And one of the guys that I used to do deals with all the time, his name's Robert Eady. He's a principal at a crypto mining company, and his stock's like 6 cents a share, and that's basically where all the insiders are long. So that's one of my favorite stocks right now because I like to buy where the insiders are long. But I do have some other favorite stocks, but the problem is their prices are far, far away from where I bought from. So I'm not going to tell you them because you're going to go out and buy them. But the price is far, far away from you like that Blink, right? Don't go and buy that Blink now. The trade's gone. So anyway, candy store more like Charlie's Chocolate Factory. All right, cool. What chart is open now? Can't see. This is Civic CVC. I mean, damn. I mean, look at that. That's ridiculous. I don't know if this thing's going to survive. I really don't. But I'll tell you, if I was a little old lady and I was coming into the market and I got some money to spend, could I throw $1 at this and make money? I think so. And the irony of it all is that really not a hell of a lot has changed here, even since really last spring. Especially with this monster wick, right? All the guys who did buy down in here, they had better have gotten doubles off on this rally. So all the people that bought sort of down in here, that W, this W, they got paid through here. And now they just sort of hit the reset button, and all the people that are buying down in through here, you better have your open orders to sell, halves on doubles working. And when the pop happens, I better hear that you were booking profits. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that. Oh, you are dead on about that. What am I dead on about? Oh, yeah, that OMG. Yeah. That's, oh, well, I mean, it's just another one that just looks so juicy down here. I like to look at these things versus USD, just sort of just give me a solid look, and I like Trex as well. Can we argue that there is a quote unquote setup here? I don't know. Um, I can see that a little W came in here and then failed. And I remember we did take this trade and got stopped out. Market cranked lower. Location wise, little old ladies. I don't have a problem with little old ladies being long anywhere down in here. And, if it takes a year or so to get your double, the irony of it all is people in the stock market are happy with like 10, 20% annualized returns. If you had to sit there for a year to double your money, is that really asking too much? I don't think so. Just people in crypto are stunningly impatient. But, when I look at this and I sort of zoom in, I do like sort of I think we created a divergence on this move. Yep, you can see there's a little mini divergence, bigger potential divergence. We'd really like to see a nice pop up here. Maybe run these stops up here to fire these bigger divergences and make them all come in. And then, probably the most compelling thing about OMG right now is basically all they did was they just hit the reset button. So there's the original double bottom that actually was the bottom. And notice here we are basically exact same level. So, for value guys, we basically, and you can see based on the profile, we're actually below value now. And so Mr. Hoagland, he loves those kind of trades. And then, it's the same conversation as all the others. If I, anywhere down in here, if I went and just did a little nibble, and we'll just say hypothetically, just grab the average of this range, we'll just say right in the middle, boom, that's where you're long. A dollar, what the hell does that say? $1.34. What do I have to see to actually get a free position, sell half on a double? All I got to see is like $2.60. So that's right in this area. Is that realistic going forward? That I see this level traded to? I think so. I don't think that's unrealistic. And my hunch is when this market sort of gets off its knees, I'll be using this wick up here as a price objective. And you notice that's the top of value. So you can see good old Mountain Man is just sitting there, right up there. There's Mountain Man. There's that wick. There's the original structure top. And Mr. Hoagland is sitting right there. So if we can actually accept back into value, 80% of the time, we should go up and tag value high. Now, this might not happen for another year, right? We might have to just go sideways for a year. Totally possible. Remember, little old ladies, they're not really in a big hurry. They just want to know that their money's working and that they're well diversified and that their account's not going to blow up. So, nibbles down in here, totally fine. In fact, I thought I saw a gap, but no. It'd be interesting to look for any price gaps up in this area. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some. Gap higher. Nope. Actually, well, that's all pretty clean. If we look at it versus BTC, it's probably even more compelling. Oh, look at that. Hello, little W. So little W trying to come in here. Probably not a good idea to chase this. If you're going to work a bid, maybe go something like this. And actually, this is sort of kind of the idea that I had yesterday that I tweeted out. And maybe that's what we'll finish this broadcast with. Is I like the idea of working stink bids, don't chase. So if I was going to work a stink bid, I definitely like sort of down in this area. And then, candle body lows are great. So somewhere down in this 0.0003 area. That's sort of where I like that guy. So I actually tweeted something out yesterday. And I was getting all excited about the bull and all that. And I pulled up this chart and same sort of logic, whoa, gee whiz, cute little bottoms working here. But the interesting thing is nanny nibble. I don't have a problem with that. You don't have a position in here. You want to go through a grab 1% position? Totally fine. And actually, I somebody in the lounge actually told me that the space that they're in, and actually the fundamental story isn't terrible. I don't think it's sort of like a scam coin. And then I looked at it later on off a lower time frame, and I was kind of like, man, this is really messy. So kind of like what I just showed you on this, right? I'm not going to go and chase this up here. If I do want to be a buyer, I've drawn my reload zones, and really ideally what I'd love to see, this actually looks very similar to that other name, is I want to see the market come down, paint a nice pretty W, and away we go. That would be sort of textbook. And actually there's one that I just put a bid in. This guy, same sort of logic. So put in the little quick W and zooming up. I said, look, I'm not allowed to chase this. I'm going to work a bid off of here. Market actually went and put in this W, and I threw in another bid because I'm more than happy to buy this W, because this might just turn into exactly like that vert coin. And that's how I got in on this thing. In essence, it W'd right here, had a pop up, and I said, look, I'll be more than happy to go and buy this W if it comes back down there. So I got filled right in there. I think that's how the story went. Anyway, that's where I'm long from. So okay, I think we'll probably leave it at that for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the offering. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I have got to head off to Liam now, so have yourselves a great day. We'll see everybody for Daily Brief tomorrow morning, bright and early, 9 a.m. Pacific time. All the best, and bye for now.